That's the list of forwarders that we
Hello
want. So
everyone, it's me again, and
just
this
double
is
checking
Operating
that.
System 2
Then if we go back down here,
with Giovanni
it's actually saying
Jesus.
it's listening
My name is Nelson
for
Robles, and today we're
IP
going to be
version
doing
6 and it's listening
exercise
on any
3.10,
interface. Now,
configuring
I
the
don't really want to use IPv6, but
NFS
for
data
now what I'm going to
store,
do is I'm just going to get
right?
a bit more specific in terms of the port it
Sadly,
can listen on.
this practice
And
usually
for
takes
now, I'm
two
going to
sides of
restrict
it.
it
It
to just
takes
its loopback
the
address.
what's the name of this
So it can listen to
thing? It
itself.
takes
If I decide to add IPv6 later
what's
on,
the name of
I
this
can actually
thing?
test,
It takes
IPv6 on this one and expand that.
ESXi
Because this one I
server
don't know of
from
like any subnets that we're going to
these
use. There's no
guys,
point putting
which
any in.
are
Now another one thing I want to
VMware,
do
right?
is
I don't have
the
that.
same for IP version 4. And for that one, I'll put in the same
I don't
loopback
have
except the
that
IP
like at all.
version
So
4
we're only gonna be
equivalent.
doing the part that
And then
involves
its own
the
IP address, which
actual
is
Windows server. Nothing to do
172.16.17.10.
with VMware. If there's something going on with VMware, I'm
So basically
sorry
what
to
I'm
tell
doing
you,
is I'm just being a bit
it's gone.
more
Like
restrictive
we're
in
not doing
terms
that.
of what this computer
All right.
is going to be listening
So this
to.
computer
Yeah,
had
well,
to
listening what
restart
interface
due
it's going to be
to
listening on
some
for DNS
other
requests, because
unplanned.
it's a case of I've got to
So
listen
that's
on the
why we're
loopback
going back to
address,
this.
so that's
So the
so
first
that the
thing we need to
computer
do is we need to
itself
open this
can
same
talk to
thing
its
that
own
it's opening
DNS
right now,
service.
which is the
And I
server
want
manager.
computers that are
Once
on the
we open the server manager, we
172.16.17
need to
network,
add
or at least
roles and
any computer that
features,
references this IP address as a
and
DNS
then we're gonna
server.
add the
I want them,
NSF
I want this computer
role.
here, I want it listening on that
Thankfully,
specific IP
the
address.
NSF
Because
role
if you're
does
out,
not need
building
a
on like a
reboot, so
production
we're not
network
gonna
out
have to
in
go
the
through
real
all
world,
that
you'll
because
probably have like a
we gotta
management
edit
interface as
shit
well, and you don't really
at
want to
all.
be
I don't
listening
have
to
time
DNS
for that.
requests on
You
the
guys
management
told me too
interface. That
much
should be for
fucking
management
homework. I don't have
purposes
time to
only.
edit.
Now, yeah, in
So I'm
our
gonna
case we've only got
add
one interface,
this
it's only a
developer
lab,
get
but
updates. Alright,
I just want to go along with that
say.
sort of like best practice.
Great. So we click
So I'm
on
just going to
next,
double check
next.
we've covered things. So we've got an access
We
list.
select our
So
VM,
there's the
click on
local
next,
host,
add the
local
update shit.
nets,
Okay, we
and
click
then our
on
two
next.
subnets.
And
Then
here,
down here we've got
roles,
recursion, which
we
is
are
set
going to
to
select
yes.
what we are
Allow
gonna looking for,
query,
right? We're looking for
and that's pinned to the
the
trusted
NSF
clients ACL.
role. It says in
Allow
here, so
query
the role is
cache.
what we're looking for.
Make sure I've spelled that properly.
And
That's pinned to trusted clients, and then allow recursion.
uh,
That's pinned to trusted clients. Then the
this is what we're doing,
forwarders,
right?
the two forwarders that I want to
Now
use
I don't
for
see the
Cloudflare.
NSF role,
And then down here we're just
which is
restricting
like
the
the
port and
main
the
problem with this.
IP
This should
addresses
be
that we're
right on
listening
my
to,
face. It is probably on features.
or
Let's go
listening on,
to
I should say.
features
Now there is one
and
thing
see
I'm
if I
going to
have the
change, and that's
NSF.
this setting here, which is for the
I
DNSSEC
don't. So is it on
validation,
server?
or DNSSEC and DNSSEC
NSF?
validation. And here I'm actually going to set it to no.
Did I install
The
it
reason
already? No,
being
I did
is
not install
I'm
it.
finding
So
it's
where is it, bro?
kind of hit and
Where
miss.
is it?
Sometimes I'm having
Network
problems
controller. It says
if I use
install
this
though.
within
I
version,
don't know
well,
if
the
you can
version
see
that
it.
we're
I'm
running on,
looking
which
at
is
my tablet and it says
20.04.
in here.
It seemed to be working okay when I was
Roles and
running it with
features
18.04, but
involves
this
server
particular
for
one,
NSF
it
role
seems to be a bit hit and miss.
the
Sometimes,
server.
yeah, the forward is not
So
working,
click on
sometimes it's
that.
not.
That's
And what I'm finding
DNS.
is if I
That's
disable
off
this, it
storage.
tends to be a bit more reliable.
Idle
So
site.
I'm going to save that file. And
DFS
then what I'm
file
going to
server
do
for
is I'm just going to
NSF.
do a
This
quick
is where it
check,
is.
because there's a command that
See
I can
guys,
run to check
this is
the,
not updated.
basically
It
do
should have
like
said
a
where it is
like
under.
pause
So
that
see where it
file
is
and
right
see
here.
if it's got any errors in it.
We're gonna
So
add
it
features
is,
including the tools.
right, it's this one here. So it's
Right? Then we're gonna
sudo
click on next. We go
named
over to next.
and then check conf.
Right? And this is what we need to do. Our reboot is
Right,
not
so it hasn't come back with any
necessary for
errors,
this. So
in which case that
not gonna
file does
reboot it.
seem to be working
Usually,
okay.
what you usually need to
So in
do
which case
is,
we've got our
whenever you install
DNS
something
actual
new,
forwarder
you usually need to do
configured.
is you need
The
to
next thing is to start looking into
reboot
configuring the zones.
like if you can, or yeah, if you can, because
Now, part of our plan is to have an actual DNS server that's responsible for our own local network, or at least this lab network that we've built. So we need a DNS server that we can use to resolve the host names, fully qualified domain names of computers on that network. And the first thing we need to do is to actually tell it what the zones are.
After this
So there's
is
going to
done,
be
we're just gonna
forward
create a folder
zones
and
and
we're
there's going
gonna
to be
call it
reverse
NFS Data
zones.
Store.
A
And
forward zone is where you're resolving the
then
fully
NSF
qualified domain name to the IP address, and a reverse zone is where you're resolving the IP address back to an actual host. I mean, that might be a case of, well, let's say a computer connects to a server and the server needs to do some check against the client that's connected to it. I mean, if it just sees an IP address, for example, it might say, well, I want to check who that IP address belongs to, so I can, you know, do a security check against it, and it'll then do a reverse lookup on the IP address to work out what the actual host name is, if you will. So if we just have a look in the folder, and
right
we're
now.
in the /etc/bind. We've got some files, you know, already in place that came as part of the service, but the one we're interested in is the named conf local file, because that's where we're going to actually tell it about the zones. Because each of the zones, there's a configuration file for all the zones we set up, but we've actually got to tell the system where the actual files are, what they're for, and so on. So I'm just going to make a backup of this file first.
And I already have, well, I'm mounted at this.
Spell.
I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to create a
Yeah,
folder,
just,
and that's going to be called NFS.
Password in there.
Share.
Oh, yeah.
So we're gonna click this.
Put the copy command in. Yeah, it's not going to do much without an actual command.
We are on properties. Now we have
right,
this
so
new
select the copy there. So we've now got a backup file for that. So I mean, use whatever text editor you want to use to copy this, but paste that name again.
This is the share name. This is gonna give the basic encoding. It's gonna ask us how do you want
back finger on the keyboard as ever. Right, so there's not a great deal in here to give you any clues, but what we need to do is to actually define what our zones are. So type in zone, and then we've got to tell it what the zone's called. So in this case, our zone's called templab.land. So effectively, that's the actual domain name, really. So we're starting the definition, if you will. Now this one's going to be of type master.
And this is it, guys. This is all you need to do on this side.
And then we've got to tell it where the actual file is. So this is going to be stored in that same file folder.
Well, problem is this is a virtualized environment.
And then we're going to call it, well, what you call the file doesn't really matter, but it helps make things a bit easier if you've got some so like something to reference it